what is an MMI interview. So an MMI is probably the most common type of interview. So besides applying to Oxford and Cambridge, all medical schools in the UK will use the MMI system. So if you're applying, chances are you'll have one of these interviews. So MMI stands for multiple mini interviews. And basically what it means is you'll rotate through a series of stations, each with a different focus. So essentially several mini interviews. So most stations run between 8 and 10 minutes, but that varies quite significantly based on the medical school you're interviewing at. And generally most stations will ask you two questions, but they'll be related to each other in some way. And you'll rotate through several different stations. Again, it varies on the university, but most of these will be between 6 and 10 stations. And then between each station, you'll have a 2 minute gap where you're able to read a kind of placard with prompts before the next station starts. So you'll kind of have a rough idea of what you'll be going into in your next station. You'll have 2 minutes to prepare for that. And it will also act as a break from your previous rotation. MMIs can be done in person or online. I think now they're increasingly done online, which I guess is more flexible. And yeah, I've already mentioned before, you'll be asked probably around 2 questions per station. So this is just a slide to show you kind of what to expect in an MMI. Like I said, I think now you're more likely to be in a kind of Zoom or Teams meeting, one-to-one with the interviewer. But if you're in person, there'll be several screens or rooms that you'll be entering. You'll do your station and then you'll rotate into a different room. Similarly, online, you'll rotate between different breakout rooms. So the advantages of an MMI interview, I think the main one really is if one station doesn't go well, there are many other stations to do well in. So it's very important that when you're practicing for MMIs, that you practice not thinking about the station you've just done and think about working towards your next stations. You'll generally have an idea of the type of stations you might encounter, and I think Parveen will talk about the different types of questions later on. But generally MMIs are quite structured, so it's quite good to revise for. MMIs will test a broad range of different topics and different skills, and they're more standardized and less biased than traditional interviews because you've got multiple interviewers. Disadvantages, if you're doing an MMI in person, it can be quite overwhelming and quite loud because there are several interviews going on at once in the same room. You are under more structured time pressure in these interviews. So like I said, if you have kind of 8 minutes per station, then you'll have 4 minutes per question, which can sometimes be a bit tricky. You have less time to build rapport with your examiner, and also the interview can take a long time because you're rotating through so many stations. So it can feel like quite a tiring experience as well. I think that's everything I have to say on MMI.